Hi, and welcome to Surviving the Holidays Tips for Trauma Survivors. Today, Keri Kitchen and I are going to share our top tips to help you navigate the holidays because the holidays can be really difficult for trauma survivors, no matter what that trauma may be. It could be a loss, it could be betrayal, it could be childhood trauma, and we want to be able to share our tips and things that have worked for us and things that we have shared with our clients over the years. So I want to welcome you to the broadcast. But before we get started, I want to share a few housekeeping items because we want this to be interactive. And so we've created a couple of things to help with that. And the first thing is, if you have questions, you can post them in the live chat or comments, depending on the format or the platform that you're using. And we will try to get to as many of those as we can at the end of the chat, at the end of the broadcast. And then secondly, as promised, we will have giveaways. But in order to be entered into the giveaway, you have to type hashtag giveaway in the chat or the comments to enter. And I'm going to leave that up on the lower part of the screen there, hashtag giveaway, to remind you of that. And just to help you perk your interest to stick around, here's just a sneak peek at what those gifts will be. So you can see we're going to have some pretty cool gifts. We got a coffee mug, actually, that we're going to give away 2 of those, gift cards, tea bags, journals, and copies of 2 of Keri's books and 2 copies at different times of one of my book, What Kind of Love Is This? Finding God in the Darkness. And so please remember to post hashtag giveaway in the chat so that you will be entered into those giveaways. So I want to welcome Keri to the broadcast. When I decided to do this, she was actually the first person that came to mind. I was a guest on her podcast, the Everyday Royalty podcast, I believe is the correct name. And we just really had a great conversation. It was fun. We share a lot of things in terms of our passion. We share a vision and a view of how counseling works for a Christian. And I was just delighted when she agreed to join me for this particular broadcast. So, Keri, could you just welcome, first of all, and thank you for being willing to join me on this. And can you, if you would like to just share a little bit about yourself, and then if you want to go ahead and share your tips with us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I think it's interesting when you're saying that we had a fun conversation because we talked about some very serious things, but we did have fun. It was a good conversation that was very life-giving. So I appreciated that. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share with you all today. Like we've already said, I'm the host of the Everyday Royalty podcast, but I'm also a licensed mental health professional. And I am a former youth pastor, a wife. I'm a mom of 3 little boys and 1 little girl in heaven. I have an online women's ministry over at Everyday Incredible and a membership group there that's warrior training. Basically, it takes biblical strategies for walking in victory. And that's some of the major hats that I wear. I've got a lot of hats, but those are some of the major hats that I wear. But what I want to share most often is that I'm a daughter of the King. So that's most important as far as me introducing myself. I'm a daughter of the King who likes to really emphasize to others what that means and really emphasize our spiritual inheritance that we have as children of the King. So my story in talking about the trauma at the holidays goes back to what I said earlier about having 3 little boys here on earth and 1 little girl in heaven. Because back in 2010, we were expecting twins, super excited about it. And then we had a terminal diagnosis for our little girl about 16 weeks into the pregnancy. And through the remainder of the pregnancy, we knew that she wasn't going to make it. And that was an emotional roller coaster. But when we're talking about holidays, the timeline of our story hit like all the major holidays. And like we announced around Thanksgiving that we were expecting, and the diagnosis came just a few days before Christmas. They were born right before Easter. It's like all the major holidays. So when you're talking about surviving the holidays after trauma, that was an ongoing traumatic situation that we went through, the grief and the loss that we had. So we had to learn some coping skills. We had to learn some ways to get through that. So here I was actively doing therapy with my clients and talking to people who were going through a lot of the same things I was. And because of that, though, there were a lot of things that I learned and had to walk through myself. And that's what I wanted to share some tips on. The first big thing, of course, at the holidays, you have lots and lots of expectations around you because everybody wants you to participate in this or that. And you've got all of the traditions that you're supposed to follow along with. But the self-care part kind of falls by the wayside sometimes. But if you've been through something traumatic, that takes a toll in so many ways, not just the emotional toll. There's a physical toll that goes along with it too. Sometimes it may be a physical trauma, and our bodies remember certain things too. Like I'm thinking about even looking back at when the seasons start changing, and there will be little things that kind of trigger those memories of different parts of the traumatic experiences. And our bodies hold that memory. And it's important to pay attention to that. And that's part of our self-care. Because I know sometimes we kind of scoff at the idea of self-care because we're like, who has time for that? But we have to learn to be in tune. And that's a big part of the self-care, because no matter who is depending on you for what, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So we have to make sure we're taking time to be mindful, to be aware of what our bodies are telling us, because we have to listen to that. So when I'm talking about self-care, I'm talking about being mindful of what your triggers are, being mindful of what it is your body is telling you. So if you're feeling overly exhausted, maybe that's a good sign that you need to step back and say, okay, what do I need to cut out of these expectations? Because the truth is, just because other people pressure you to do it doesn't mean you have to do it. Or just because it's tradition doesn't mean you have to do it. It was, I mean, like I said, our diagnosis was confirmed on the 21st of December. So right in the middle of the Christmas season, right before Christmas, and every Christmas after that for years. It's better now than it was, because it's been 11 years this year. But it's better now than it was, but it's still like there are certain things that just hit hard. And that's part of being mindful, part of being aware of that, is just to recognize that there's no time frame, there's no time limit. It's not like you've gone through a certain time and it expires.
Right. Exactly.
Things come up even years and years down the road, and it's okay to give yourself permission to step back if that happens. And that's part of that mindfulness and being aware. So making sure we take time to rest, making sure we take time to just reflect on our own experience, and make sure we're giving ourselves permission to experience what we're experiencing in that. So that's kind of the emphasis on self-care. And of course, we always talk about taking time to just enjoy a cup of coffee, but really enjoy it, be mindful about that. Taking bubble baths, coloring, doing all those things that we talk about often. But I think I wanted to really emphasize that part as far as the reflection and mindfulness.
Yeah.
So the second tip I wanted to really emphasize, it goes kind of along with part of that, is setting boundaries. And recognizing, again, just because somebody is pressuring doesn't mean you have to follow through with that. Doesn't mean you actually have to listen to what they're saying. I mean, do what they're wanting you to do. I mean, you can say no. It's okay to say no. Yeah. And if someone is not respecting those boundaries, then making sure you let them know that you're not going to participate. I mean, you can step back. And I think one distinction that I always like to make is boundaries versus ultimatums. So a boundary would be saying, I'm doing this because I need this, versus an ultimatum that says, well, if you don't do this, then I'm going to whatever, trying to tell them what they have to do. A boundary is going to focus on what you are going to do to take care of yourself. And that's a good emphasis there. So the third tip that I wanted to really focus on was speaking truth, speaking life, speaking affirmations, really focusing on what's true. Because when we've been through something traumatic, that is prime opportunity for lies to pop in our heads, for that internal bully to get stirred up, and for a lot of thoughts to enter in that are not true. So we have to
Exactly.
really take the time to reflect on that and acknowledge those thoughts, be able to take those thoughts captive, as scripture tells us, and bring them into obedience to Christ, which basically means that we have to focus on what we choose to believe, what we believe is true. And in my story, I started focusing on different scriptures. I was keeping a journal online. This goes into the next tip too, but they kind of merged together a little bit.
Okay.
But I was keeping a journal to keep people updated because, like I said, it was like a 4-month period where we went through this whole experience knowing that she wasn't going to live, and I was trying to keep people updated without having to repeat myself over and over.
Yeah.
So I was journaling, but with each journal entry, I felt very strongly that I needed to end it on some note of truth, whether it was something God was doing in the situation, if it was just emphasizing what scripture said, just pointing something back to truth. And I realized after the fact how powerful that was in helping me cope, because I wasn't dwelling in the negative thoughts. I wasn't dwelling in the lies that the inner bully was trying to say. I
Right.
was dwelling in things that I knew to be true, and what a difference there was in that. So the last part was journal, but journal with purpose. So getting your words out in some way, whether you're writing them, even if you just record, just talk and record yourself, and however you want to do it, basically, but getting your words out, but with purpose. So you're turning it around, just like in Psalms, when David would tell what he was suffering with, he would say what he was suffering with, and he would talk about the situation, how horrible it was, but then he would turn it around. And that's the beautiful part of it, because it's so healing when we're able to take what it is that we're going through and then say, but God, you, and then we're turning it back to him.
Exactly. Yes.
And what an amazing difference that is. So when we have those thoughts going through our heads, it can be very tempting to just keep going in the same direction. But that's a train of thought that is very damaging. It's a train of thought that really does a lot of destruction. So when we take those captive and we're pointing back to God and who he is, that is pointing back to truth, and that is very healing, because we're not going down the wrong path that way. So
exactly.
To recap then, the top tips I would share that were helpful to me personally were the self-care, making sure we're reflecting and being mindful, setting boundaries and enforcing them, speaking truth and affirmations, and I like the ones that are straight from scripture because I know that's truth, and then journal, but journal with purpose. And I think those are some of the most important things that I found helpful.
Thank you, Keri. Those are awesome. And I agree with you on all of those, especially you and I talked when I was on your podcast about the whole journaling and taking thoughts captive. And I think the term I like to use when you kind of go down that path is spiraling. And I think because you kind of go into oblivion for, it's very difficult to climb out of that once you allow that to happen. So if you can capture the thought right at the beginning, then it keeps you from doing that and keeps you grounded in the truth. So that's a very important thing. So before we go on and share some more tips, I would like it's time for our first giveaway. So we're going to, our first giveaway is a insulated coffee mug that has a lid. So it's a travel mug, a $20 Starbucks gift card, and a package of 8 gourmet tea bags. And those I've heard from the people that won them the similar things at my book launch that the tea is really, really good. It's gourmet. I didn't know that when I ordered them, but it's very, very good tea. So we're going to go ahead and do that giveaway now and see. We only have 2 people that have entered, but we have 4 people on the broadcast. So if you want to enter it this time, then type in #giveaway in order to be entered. So if not, let's go ahead and do the giveaway and see who won. And Robin G is our winner. So congratulations, Robin. And if you would send me your contact info, your email or your mailing address by going to charlottethomason.com/contact, then I will get you that in the mail to you as soon as possible. Yeah, and that is on the screen right now, charlottethomason.com/contact, and we'll leave that up there. So let's do our second giveaway now. And for that giveaway, we are doing 2 little pocket journal or journals, blank journals, and a copy of Keri's book. Keri, you want to talk a little bit about this book?
Sure.
Real quick.
The name of the book is Maranomi. I know that's a new word, but it comes from a blog post that I mentioned before that I was blogging, doing journaling online just to keep people updated on what was happening. So the term came from the story of Ruth and Naomi and how Mara's name changed, or Naomi's name changed to Mara, but which meant bitter rather than sweet or pleasant. So I was talking about how when you go through a loss like that, there's no term for it. And that was the term that kind of came out of that blog post because it became Maranomi, because I'm not bitter. It was a bitter experience, but there's a bitter sweetness to, and we have to learn and to live in that new normal. So this is basically the combination of all the blog posts and then what was happening between those blog posts. And there's also some input from my husband as well, his side of the story, that just the whole journey of going through this loss and just the ups and downs and everything in between.
Okay, so let's see who the winner is. Well, it looks like Robin, oh, here we go, is the new for this one. Okay, Carla, you are the winner. Race to Walk is Carla Alvarez's YouTube channel and website, and she is a coworker of mine. And Carla, I have your address, but so I will get that. I will get the journals to you as quick as possible, and Keri will but I will send her your address so that she can also send you the book. So thanks for that. So I hope that the rest of you can, that we'll get some more people next time, and we'll have give away 2 more things at the end of the program. So to continue with the tips, I wanted to share a few things as well. And for those of you that don't know me, I endured really horrendous abuse, sexual, physical, and emotional, from a very, very young age. And it left me with a really distorted view of love. And even though I knew Jesus from a really young age, I was just very confused about what love was. And a lot of the things that happened to me happened around the holidays, the really serious things. And a couple of very traumatic events happened on Christmas Eve at a couple of different times in my life. And so it was really holidays, as I started to heal and started to remember, were difficult for me because there was times that I didn't want to be alone and didn't want to, it was difficult for me to be alone. I was afraid, and I would have, like Keri was talking about, there would be body memories and things that were stored in my body from those events. And it was really difficult to be by myself. And for several years, I really couldn't be alone on Christmas Eve without having some panic happening. And one of the things that I learned in therapy was, and in my healing and in my work with my faith, was, like Keri said, to focus on who I really am, what my identity really is, and that I'm not the things that happened to me as a child. That is not my identity. That my identity is, as Keri said, a daughter of the King, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And it took a long time for me to really accept that and believe it in my heart. But when I did, it really made a difference in those times when I struggled to being alone over the holidays, because I could remember back to times when I was a child and I would literally spend time with Jesus and and have those moments. And I would remember those times, and it would help ground me. And I would, if I had the negative thoughts come into my head, I also have a tool that I use that is capturing my thoughts. And I found, I just want to reiterate the importance of that type of journaling. It is so vital to healing. It just, and to staying grounded. And so the second thing that I want to talk about kind of ties into that. And it's something that I shared in a short video on Tuesday that I call pre-journaling. So if you, as a trauma survivor, are planning to actually go to a family event over the holidays, that can be kind of disconcerting. If you've made the choice to do that, that's awesome. It is your choice. And I think, like Keri said, it's important to be sure that you're doing it because it's your choice, not because you feel pressured. But if you make that choice, there's a tool that I call pre-journaling that might help you in that process. And what pre-journaling is literally you sit down with a notebook and you write down possible scenarios that might cause you stress during that visit. You think ahead. It's called planning, because that's really important in terms of having a successful visit. And so you write those down, and don't write a novel, just a few short words about each possible situation. And then after you do that, for each one of those, write down what thoughts and feelings might come up when each of those scenarios, and write those down. But again, don't go down the path of spiraling, but just very brief, very short. And then after you do that, think about, well, what would calm you down? And write those things down. And once you do that, go the next step and actually come up with some strategies for each one of those situations. That can be reading a scripture to ground you in the truth. It can be doing positive affirmations and listing those. It can be, well, I'm going to go take a break and walk outside. I'm going to go take a drive. Any of those things, and write each of those down for each of those situations. And then be sure to take that with you, because if you leave it at home, it's not going to be helpful to you, because you won't probably remember those if you get caught up in that kind of a situation. And so that was helpful to me. And it even sometimes, even now, when certain things come up for me, that I think might be stressful, I still do that. So it's really a powerful tool to use. And the other suggestion I would make with that is that you would maybe read those like the day before you leave. Read over that, so that it's just kind of fresh in your mind. And then maybe even every day that you're gone before you go to bed, look over them again, because then it'll be right there. And that's so, so, so important. So that's the second tip. And then finally, what I want to talk about is really for those who struggle with any type of addiction, because trauma many, many, many times leads to addictive behaviors. And it did for me. And the addiction and the struggle that I had was with sexual acting out was the primary one. And it was really difficult for me, especially if I was alone over the holidays, to not yield to that temptation. And the holidays are a hard time for that, especially if you're alone. So if you're going to be alone and you struggle with any type of addiction, what I would encourage you to do is to have an accountability person that is aware that you're going to be alone, that is aware that you struggle with whatever it is that you struggle with, and that you have given permission to check on you and to ask you those tough questions about whether or not you are being tempted and what you're doing, and even maybe agreeing to come and either be with you or to talk to you on the phone or go grab a cup of coffee, but to have a plan in place to, if that kind of temptation arises, you have accountability, because you don't have to be tough on your own. the holidays are hard. The holidays bring up all kinds of triggers, all kinds of memories. And it is very, very easy to fall into old patterns if you do not have someone you can reach out to. And so that's really, so mainly pre-journal, have someone to hold you accountable, and just make sure that you are doing, all the things that Keri said, and that you capture your thoughts, and that you don't allow yourself to spiral into oblivion, so to speak. So anything else that you'd like to add, Keri, to that?
The only thing that's coming to mind really is just an emphasis on give yourself permission to step back.
Yes,
because I thought that's the one thing that I keep hearing in all of this, because when you said because the holidays are hard, that's a tough one, because the holidays, like, you have this built-in expectation to be happy and jolly, because
yes,
you see all around you, but the reality is it doesn't always feel happy and jolly. And
exactly.
It's okay that there's bittersweet. It's okay that you have happy moments and sad moments, and happy moments wrapped in sad moments. It's okay. It's okay to have all the emotions at the same time, because that's part of the human experience.
Yes.
And I just wanted to really emphasize that it's okay to feel how you feel. And I think it's good to give yourself permission and journal it.
Exactly. And I think that's incredibly important. That, I always tell people that I've worked with that feelings are not bad.
Right.
It's, it's the choices that we make when we're highly emotional that can turn out not so well. But the emotion itself is not bad. You feel whatever it is that you feel, and you don't have to pretend to feel something that you don't. And it's really, really, really okay. So yeah, that is actually an excellent point.
And at the same time, reminding yourself that emotions, the intensity of emotions, doesn't always stay that intense, and to keep reminding yourself that the intensity of this will pass. What do I actually believe is true?
Yes. And that's where the taking thoughts captive come in. It's like, this intensity is really awful. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that I have shared before is that it's kind of how you can gauge if something's kind of out of whack, is if the intensity of the emotion doesn't really match what happened.
Right.
Then you kind of know, okay, I need to take a step back and do something and calm down a little bit. So that's a really good point. Okay, well, so it's time to do our final giveaway before we do a little bit of closing. So for our third giveaway, we are giving away 2 more journals and a copy of my book, What Kind of Love Is This? Finding God in the Darkness. So we have several more people in here now that have entered. So let's see who's going to win this one. Angel Lee Jones. So congratulations. And I will get you that Angel. That Angel actually happens to be my granddaughter. So I will get that to you, and you can share that with a friend because she already has a copy of my book. So maybe she can share it with someone. So, okay. So now we're going to have our big giveaway, which is a coffee mug and 8 bags of gourmet tea, a $20 Amazon gift card, a copy of my book, and a copy of Keri's book, Learning to Fear Not. And I believe that is a book that talks about taking thoughts captive, if I'm
A lot of it does, yes. It talks about anxiety specifically, but from a faith-based perspective, learning to wear your spiritual armor, and how that actually applies. It takes a clinical approach as well as a faith-based approach.
Yeah, well, good. So let's see who's going to win that final gift, the big one. And Ashley, you are the winner of the grand prize. So congratulations. If you would send me your mailing address to, you can contact me at charlottethomason.com/contact, and I will get you everything except Keri's book, and Keri will send that one. So, do we want to? Angel just sent me a message that she was just resetting the thing when she put her name in the drawing. So I don't know. Do you want to draw again for the third one, Angel, or do you want to just go? Oh, she's drawn again. So. Cindy White. All right, Cindy. So you get a copy of my book, which is great because I know you've been wanting one, and you get a couple of little journals as well. So congratulations. If you would send me your mailing address, I will get that to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much. And so now we have all the giveaways done. And I just want to thank everybody for joining me today. Thank you, Keri, for joining me today. And I hope that the tips that we've given you have been helpful to you. I hope that you can use some of those. And we do have a question. Ashley asked a question. She's asking, yeah, we put it up there on the screen. When you've experienced trauma, grief, and you're still in the season that isn't great, how do you feel joy and enjoy the moment, and then not feel guilty if you don't feel happy? Especially, well, Keri, you want to answer that one?
Well, I think that, like we were saying, when we're focusing on what we believe is true, that's one of the biggest things I found for myself. And just when we know that it's okay to not feel all the happy, jolly feelings, I reflected quite a bit that first Christmas, especially on the somberness of the holiday. And just knowing that it doesn't have to only be the happy, jolly,
Yes,
but knowing that you can have joy and peace and pain and sorrow all at the same time. That was something that I felt like we learned through Karis, is that we were able to experience all the things at once, but giving yourself permission to have the somber, have the things that you're dealing with, but then focus on what the actual source of your joy is, because we need to focus on that part, and knowing that our joy is in the Lord.
yes,
And knowing that it's not always going to be that this situation right now, there's more to it than that, and knowing who He is. And when we really focus and dig into knowing who we are in Him, that's where our joy comes from. It's not about our circumstances. It's not about what things have happened to us, but just focusing on who we really are. Because when we really dig into that, when we really seek Him, we're going to find Him. And I know that sounds cliche sometimes, but that really is the truth, that when we really seek Him, we're going to find Him. We're really going to have a deeper understanding of that. And that's what can bring us joy, even in the middle of pain and sorrow and all the things we go through.
yes, yes, absolutely. So, yeah, so this has been awesome. It's been a really good time to share together. And I hope that the things that we said are helpful to you. We do have a couple of special offers available. For a limited time, you can get a signed copy of my book, What Kind of Love Is This? Finding God in the Darkness, by going to charlottethomason.com/special offer. And Keri also has a free prayer guide that she has available. You can get the details of that at trauma.everydayincredible.net. And do you want to say anything about that real quick, Keri?
It just has it gives a lot of good strategies for praying through scripture to deal with the trauma. So I do recommend you going to get that, and just give some helpful tips when you're learning how to pray using scripture.
Well, good. Okay. Yeah, that sounds really awesome, because that's something that is very, very helpful and very, very important as well. So I wanted to, again, thank you, Keri, for being with me. And to all of you that joined us, I hope we were able to give you some good insight. And I'm going to try to do something like this maybe monthly. So keep that in mind. And we're going to end with a little short video about how to get in touch with both Keri and I through social media and on our website. So thank you for watching.